Hi, I'm Kate Abraham. On today's show, we revisit the Zen Garden and Ray Maxwell takes us stargazing. All this and so much more today on The Lab with Leo.
How are you? Good to see you and welcome. It's time for The Lab. Leo Laporte here, and this is the show where we're going to explain everything you want to know about all this cool stuff, like the toy store, the technology that's all around us, from telescopes to computers to the internet to Kate Abraham. We explain it all.
That's a tough one.
Nobody can explain you.
Nope.
No. Kate Abraham, ladies and gentlemen. She's the keeper of the clipboard, the keeper of the callers, and so much more.
Indeed.
So much more. How are you today?
I'm superb, thank you.
Good, good. We're going to have a good show.
Yes, we are.
I saw Ray here. He's always
show.
fun. And also, as you said, Dave Shea. We're going to talk about style sheets again, cascading style sheets. It's really key to understand this if you want to start doing your own websites. I was thinking the other day that, my kids love playing with their MySpace or their Facebook pages. And I was thinking, now's the time to take them to the next level. They'll spend hours just tweaking it. If they knew a little CSS and they had their own website, they could be learning some real skills.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get you started doing that. All right. Fantastic. Also, lots of great calls I see from all over the world. Everywhere. Who's our first caller today?
We're actually heading down to Victoria.
Okay.
And to a place called Pakenham. And James I'm not sure that James has been up for a long time or whether he's basically just got out of bed.
All we know is it's early in the morning in Pakenham.
It's very early.
Hello, James. How are you?
Very good, Leo. Yourself?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for joining us in the lab.
I will get this out of the way. I'm just, I'm a massive fan of yours, and I'm a stay-at-home dad, and your podcast basically kept me sane from the children. And
well, they keep me away from my children, so that's good. That's the best way to stay sane. Can we see him in here? I want to see the picture of him. I see him on Kate's computer. There, that's me. Wait a minute. We got somebody running around pushing buttons. James, what can I do for you today?
Basically, my question is, I want to find out what you recommend in an all-round good lens for a Canon SLR.
You picked a good time to be on the phone today because Ray Maxwell is here, and he is a photographic genius. And I wouldn't even deign to express an opinion with Ray here. But let me tell you something. I'm going to express an opinion, and then we'll let Ray fix it, okay? So what kind of, first of all, you said you'd have a digital SLR?
That's correct.
Yeah. So there it is right there. What kind is that?
It's the EOS 350D. I think over there it's called the Rebel XT.
It's the Rebel XT. Oh, they call it something different in Australia. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So the 350D, that is a great camera. Now, there's one thing to remember on a camera. Some SLRs, like that one, the CMOS, the pickup, is smaller than 35 millimeters. So the differential in size becomes a multiplier. So if you put, for instance, a 50 millimeter lens on that camera, it would actually be the equivalent of, I think, a 75 millimeter lens on a film camera. Does that make sense? It's because the smaller pickup it actually makes the lens as if the lens is a longer lens. So generally, what I like, and I'm going to ask Ray, but this is my new religion. You probably know this from hearing our podcast. I'm loving a fixed length 50 millimeter lens, and it's really more for my eye to train it. The difference between that and a zoom is you actually have to, if you want to get, frame the picture, you actually have to move in a little bit or move out to get the picture right instead of just zooming the lens. And I think that's a great discipline. You can also get a faster lens in a 50 millimeter, and that's nice because, frankly, I think flash really kills a picture. That 350D has a pop-up flash on it, but it's bright, it's flat, it's real close to the lens. It's never going to give you that kind of rich tone that a great photograph has. So a fast, fixed lens, I think, is a great place to start. Now, that camera comes with a pretty good kit lens. What is it? Is it 28 to 75?
18 to 55.
18 to 55. So that actually is the equivalent of 24 to roughly 75 or 80. Because you multiply by 1.5. So that's, I think that's the reason that comes with that lens. That's a great starting point because you go from wide, sort of wide to a little bit long, and that's a good range. The tradition, I come from the film school, and so in film, it was 15 millimeter. If you wanted to do portraiture, it's 105. That was kind of considered the perfect length for portraiture. You might get a longer lens for sporting activities. You might get it's great to have a macro lens. That's what Sean does, all those great what the tech pictures are with. All right, but I've said enough. We got a guy who really knows what he's talking about. So now that you've heard me blather on, James, let's ask the expert, Ray Maxwell. So James has a Canon Rebel, a 350D in Australia. What do you recommend he start with?
You hit the nail on the head when you talked about in the film days of the 105.
That's the portraiture lens.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're a people shooter, that's real good for candid portraits and the like. And
because you don't have to get up in their face.
That's right.
I could shoot a full figure portrait of you from here. I'm about 10, 15 feet away.
That's right.
I don't have to go right up here to get a picture of you. Yeah.
The other thing is the wider the lens, the more you have to move in, and the more you move in, it accents the differences in your features. If you get a wide-angle lens and come in, it makes you have a big nose.
Yeah. So that's hard to get used to. That's why I like the 50, because the 50 is like how the eye works pretty much, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're in the with that particular camera, something around 75 would be equivalent to a 105.
That's why they give you that lens, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so 75 is very good. At that focal length, it helps you throw the background out of focus.
Right.
Okay, narrow depth of field and focus on the eyes.
So he's pretty well set, really, with that basic.
Yeah, it's a very good place to start.
What would you say for his next lens?
Oh, well, most people want to go for telephotos.
Right.
And I highly recommend, depends on what they shoot, but if they shoot landscapes at all, wide angle.
Yeah, go wide.
Yeah.
And he's already got the equivalent of a 28.
Yeah, which is plenty wide.
Yeah, that's good for a...
He's got an excellent lens.
That's why they give you that lens. It's kind of the all-in-one. Now, in the old days, I used to be taught that a fixed focus lens is always going to give you a better picture than a zoom. Now, are zooms better now than they used to be?
That's not true anymore. After computer designed lenses came in, the zooms now are just as sharp as the prime lenses.
It's very, it's funny because it's hard to find a prime lens anymore.
That's right.
They're all
now,
zooms.
The prime lenses have one advantage. They're usually faster.
Yeah.
Faster means lower noise if you're a fanatic.
That's why I splurged on a 50 millimeter 1.2, because I can get a very fast lens. Don't use flash. There's a kind of advantage, disadvantage. When you're shooting it wide open, you have no depth of field at all, so you better focus perfectly.
That's absolutely,
the focal plane is like this, it's so narrow. So I guess there's different points of view, but James, it sounds like you're pretty well set to start anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
If you wanted to get another lens, you'd have to think about, well, what do I want to take pictures of? Do I want to have a telephoto so I can get distant shots, maybe pictures from a soccer game or something like that? Or do I want to get a wide angle because I want to do more landscape portraiture? And that's kind of up to you and the kind of content you use. I love having a 50 fixed. Now on that camera, to get a 50 to be more like a 35, because it's kind of like the human eye, and it's more like a learning lens for me, right? I'm learning how to compose, and I think it's really, for me, it's been really an exciting adventure to have a fast lens and have to really kind of compose it, think about it as I'm doing it. James, are you enjoying photography?
Oh, I'm loving it. From what you and Merlin were saying quite a few Macro weeklies ago, I actually went off and bought the 50mm fixed lens, but it's not the one you got.
Oh, I got a crazy one, but you can get a 1.4 and it's quite good. Let me show you, if we go to Flickr, I just want to show you some of the great photos that Merlin Mann, who's our good friend, he's the expert on time management. He just had a baby, Eleanor, a beautiful baby, and oops, I'm going to have to, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to show you these, though. They're so good. Coming up, Ryan, in just a little bit. Let's see. Ray. Oh, Ray, not Ryan. Ray is coming up in just a little bit. Oh, I'll show you this later. I really want to. In fact, I'll show you with Ray, because some of these photos are so beautiful. Ray Maxwell's coming up. Actually, we're not going to talk about photography. We're going to talk about big old telescopes when the lab continues. You stay right here. Welcome back to the lab. I'm Leo Laporte. I've learned a new word today, polymath. Ray Maxwell is a polymath. He comes in and talks about computers, Photoshop, how your eyes work, color science. He's a scientist, but he's a teacher, and apparently, and I know this, an amateur astronomer as well. How many things do you? You have more interest in your pilot. Anyway, this is going to be fun because I think a lot of people are very interested in amateur astronomy, and technology has really changed the field.
It has totally changed the field. There's really some revolutionary things that have happened with regard to amateur astronomy.
Yeah.
They've just changed the whole,
Where should we start? I'm not going to run out and buy a big telescope till I know a little bit more.
Right. I'm going to start out where almost every book on serious amateur astronomy starts, and this is the book to start with. This is Night Watch. This is by Terence Dickerson. He's a Canadian author, and it is an excellent book.
For any age, it looks like? I mean, this would be great.
Teaches you the sky, teaches you the equipment, and so forth.
It's a beautiful book,
The key thing is don't go out and buy what we call a department store telescope. That's these long, little, slender telescopes.
Yeah, they look like a sea captain's telescope.
And they are on this little flimsy mount that vibrates like heck, and they're almost not worth carrying home.
Okay.
Rather than that, go out and buy yourself a good set of binoculars.
Oh, really?
1050 binoculars are excellent for astronomy.
Just to get started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to learn the sky.
In a good book like this.
Right. That book will tell you all about it.
Okay.
And help you pick out the equipment. But it really, don't go out and get one of those department store telescopes. Then later,
as you get more proficient, and show that you have some real interest in this.
Then have a look at, if you're really serious, Starware.
Okay.
Now that tells you all about the equipment, all about how to pick a telescope, and really zooms in on it. Now the important thing to understand is a lot of people misunderstand what a telescope does. They're saying, and by the way, those little department stores, they always say 250 or 500 times magnification.
Right.
Magnification is not important.
Oh no, what is important?
Light gathering.
Okay, that's why the small tube is no good. You want, I noticed these professional or more serious ones have big fat tubes. They gather more light in.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because we're looking for vintage photons.
What are we looking for? Where are we going to look? In other words, they've been coming from stars thousands of years ago.
Millions.
Yes.
Yes. Well, just to give you an example, I'm going to show you a picture on my computer here, and this is the Andromeda Galaxy.
So I go out and buy a good telescope, I'm going to see that.
You'll see the core of it quite easily. In fact, on a real clear night, if you're way out in the wilderness, you can see that with the naked eye.
It's pretty bright.
Now, what people don't understand is the diameter of that from one end to the other. 2.5 times the diameter of the moon.
Okay, so it's big.
It's big. It's faint.
Right.
So light gathering is the name of the game.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
So that's
Moon's
very
easy
important.
to see because it's very bright.
Yeah, extremely bright.
Yeah.
Now, when I borrowed my first telescope, I looked at Saturn, Jupiter, Mars.
Yeah, that's the first thing.
Those are the first things, and those are all very bright objects in the sky,
and relatively large.
And after I'd looked at each of them about 4 or 5 times, I went,
now
what? And then a friend of mine, when we were out in the wilderness, pointed out Andromeda with the naked eye. Okay.
Wow.
And I'm going, whoa. And by the way,
so that's what you got you started was that galaxy, right? That's a galaxy, right?
Right. That's a galaxy. That's the nearest galaxy to us.
Okay.
It's 2.2 million light years away.
So the light we're seeing from that Andromeda galaxy was created 2.2 million years ago. It took that long to reach us.
Yes. Wow. Vintage photons.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So there's brighter objects like the moon and the planets, then there's dimmer objects like stars, galaxies.
Right. Nebula, galaxies, star clusters.
Nebulas are beautiful, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you see any?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That M52, which is the Orion Nebula, was the other thing that got me hooked on this. And it's 1,700 light years away. It's in the neighborhood.
Did you make this image of the spiral galaxy?
This is a NASA image.
That's a gorgeous image.
And this is M51. And that is 25 million light years away. And what I want to show you on that one, if I can hide this for a moment, this is taken with my 8-inch telescope with that same...
So you took this picture?
This one right here was taken. That's the same galaxy with my 8-inch pocket deck of my home.
So cool. Now, there's no color in that, is that?
No.
You're shooting it black and white?
Strictly black and white here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do a whole thing on astrophotography in the next...
Oh, that'd be a great segment.
Yeah, and another segment.
This is a great thing to get kids into because it's something that they can do with the software nowadays and the materials that are available, but it gets them excited about it.
I want to show you what we've done. When I first started into this, I had to learn to find all these little faint fuzzies, and they're very hard to learn how to see them. You have to use averted gaze. You don't look right at them because the center of your fovea has a lot of cones, color receptors, which are no good in low light.
Oh, interesting.
So you have to shift them off just slightly from the center of your vision to the rods, which are very sensitive after you've been in the dark for like 30 minutes.
Right.
Okay.
And that's another thing. I guess you probably can't do this downtown. You probably want to be in kind of a
the darker the better.
Yeah.
At any rate, I started out finding certain bright stars, and then if I wanted to find these faint fuzzies, I had to do what was known as star hop, where you get out your charts and you say, well, let's see, I'll start with that one, I can see it with a naked eye, get the scope on it, and then I'll move to this one and this one. And sometimes it takes me 10 or 15 minutes to find these.
That's part of the fun of it.
But now we have computerized control.
This makes it a lot easier.
And
so you'll enter in a coordinate?
No, I enter in the name.
The name?
Of the object that I want.
And then this
it's got a database of over 10,000 objects in it.
Wow. Now you have to have a motorized telescope to use this, right?
And we have the motorized mount on this unit, which is a German equatorial mount. And I want to just point out one thing on it.
Okay, let's take a look at the telescope.
This axis on the telescope over here is aligned with the center of the Earth, the axis of the Earth.
Okay.
And it is now.
How do you know that?
I have a little telescope down here that I aim at the North Star.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. All right.
So I can perfectly align that.
All right.
And then this thing is rotating right now in the opposite direction of the rotation of the Earth.
So it will hold a star in place.
Exactly. Now the next step is I come to this Carina software, which is Voyager 4. And I can pick out an object on here and click on it, the Ring Nebula.
You have a lot of toys,
I can say, go to, and you'll see the telescope now moving, and on the screen you'll see it showing me where it's looking on the star map. So this is called a go-to telescope, and instead of 15 minutes of star hopping, I'm there.
That's really cool. So this actually went to that star.
Right.
Wow. Do it again so we can actually see the movement. It's not much movement.
Yeah, I'll go back up here to Vega, and I'll say go to.
So this is the motor, and it's actually moving this. As long as you've got this calibrated so that it knows where it is.
Right.
And that's why you use this little...
I first align on the pole star, and then I align on 3 bright stars, and the computer adjusts all the alignment to within a few minutes of arc.
Now, you spend a lot of money on all of this. This is an expensive hobby.
Well, it's interesting. You can get into it for the price of a set of binoculars. You can get a good starter telescope for about $1,000.
Okay.
Now, that telescope, the tube on it, is about $1,000.
Just this part?
Yeah.
And then you have to buy the
mount is $5,000. Because that's one of the finest mounts going. But if you do astrophotography, that's very important. And the eyepieces, you can easily spend $1,000 on the eyepieces.
It could be an expensive hobby, but that's the point. Start with the binoculars, with these inexpensive books. That's a great way to get kids started, excited about it, and it could be a lifelong hobby once they get going.
And it will broaden your horizon when you start thinking how big the univerus is, and that you're looking in space and time.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Yeah. This is how you make a little miniature Carl Sagan out of your kids.
That's right.
Ray Maxwell is a color scientist, a photographer, a pilot, and now we know amateur astronomer as well. You can find out more about him at his website. In fact, some great pictures there at maxwellmultimedia.com.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. I'm really jealous. This looks like so much fun. All right, we're going to take a close-up look at something you'd find around the lab now. This is something Sean does with his little super-duper macro lens. That must be the sunrise button, I think. I think that's what that is. That's the sunrise button on this telescope. That's my guess. I don't know. What do you think? We'll find out.
I think it's a sunset.
A sunset? Oh, yeah, right. It's going... Well, no, it's upside down. He's tricky. We'll find out when we continue. Stay right here. Welcome back to the lab. Before the break, we asked you, what the heck is that? I don't know. What is it? It's a button on the Star Wars Darth Vader laptop. That's what it is. That's the space key. Everybody knows that. That's the universal symbol for space. Not. Well, I wouldn't have gotten that one. Thank you, Sean Carruthers. He takes those with his super-duper macro lens and stumps me every time. Now let's get another call on the air. Kate Abraham.
We are going to Toronto, Ontario, and this is Robert.
And another Skype caller. I love these Skype callers. Hello, Robert.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm calling from Toronto, and I've kept up with you since Call for Help.
Well, if you've been following me, you better run to Vancouver, because if you want to stalk me, I'm on the West Coast now. What can I do for you today?
I had a question about my monitor setup.
Okay.
I have an LCD 17-inch screen monitor. It's got great resolution, but when I try to set it on its highest in my settings, pushing it up to the highest pixel rate, like up to 1280 by 1024, I see problems on the screen. Sort of like as if the light's trying to adjust, or the light's kind of softly pulsing on the monitor.
You actually see pulsing.
Yeah, it's almost like the light is adjusting. It's not like a regular pulse or a flashing. It's just kind of uneven.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would say first thing to check is make sure that you have the right monitor description in your display settings.
Right.
You want to make sure that you're not attempting a refresh rate the monitor can't handle. In fact, usually on an LCD you want 60 hertz, although some monitors, LCDs now do a higher refresh rate. So first thing to do is go into your display settings control. You're on Windows or Mac?
I'm on Windows XP.
Okay. You'll go into the display settings control panel, and you'll look at the click the monitor tab to see what monitor is described there. Now here we have default monitor. You might have plug and play VGA or something like that. If it doesn't actually say the make and model of the monitor you've got, you probably want to install a monitor driver for that monitor.
Okay.
And then, failing that, look at the refresh rates. You see here on mine, it's 85 hertz. That's probably not the ideal refresh rate for this monitor. An LCD, usually you want it to be 60 hertz. If it is a refresh rate that the monitor has trouble with, or if it's too low a refresh rate, you might see that pulsing or flickering.
I see. Okay.
The other thing is that, remember, the way an LCD works, at least until recently, was they have a fluorescent light behind the shutters of the LCDs shining out. And you've probably seen fluorescent lights pulse. A pulsing fluorescent often means that there's something wrong with the power supply. Is it an older monitor or brand new?
It's a pretty new monitor, but I do live in an older building.
Yeah, see, you may be seeing that. So that's another thing to look at, is if it's not getting consistent voltage, yeah, it'll pulse, it'll flicker. It's a fluorescent light. If you've ever put a compact fluorescent on a dimmer switch, you know exactly that same pulse flickery thing, because it can't handle it.
Yeah, it's obnoxious, actually.
It is. It is. So I would see maybe it's probably a good idea anyway to have an uninterruptible power supply. That's a battery backup that conditions the power that's coming to your computer. That will often, if you have a building with power that fluctuates a little bit, it's probably a good idea not just for the monitor but for the computer. Computer parts are very sensitive to low power situations as well as spikes.
Yeah,
so a UPS smooths that out. So that's another thing to think about, is maybe getting a UPS on that thing.
Right.
And then finally, it could be the power, it could be the actual power supply, the voltage.
Yeah. See, the thing I noticed is that when it's down at like 1280 by, what is it?
It doesn't do it at lower resolutions?
Then it's fine.
Yeah. That usually means that the refresh rate that it's attempting at that higher resolution it can't handle. It may be your video card even.
Right. Well, the thing is, my video card is actually not exactly a high-amp video card.
Yeah. It may be that the video card can't handle that resolution. There's a native resolution for that 17-inch display. It probably is 1280 by 1024.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, 1024 by 768 is where it's ideal.
Now, what you want to find out is what's the native resolution for that LCD.
Right.
In other words, how many, an LCD, like a plasma, like any digital display, actually has a certain number of dots across and a certain number of dots up, and that's their, what we call native resolution. So if the native resolution of that monitor is 1024 by 768, it will never look particularly good at any other resolution. You usually want to run LCDs at their native resolution, otherwise you get scaling artifacts and you may get refresh issues.
Right, I see. So
that's why the first thing to do is to, if you can, get the driver for that monitor. It'll tell you. The driver will say, this is what I want it to be. Because that's basically what's in a monitor driver, is just a series of text statements saying this is the optimal refresh rate, this is the optimal resolution, this is the refresh rate I can handle, and it keeps you from setting it to things that you shouldn't be setting it to. So first thing to do is check and see if you've got the right monitor type in there. If you don't, get a driver from the manufacturer and install that. That'll probably fix the problem. It'll certainly give you the right settings. Play with the refresh rates, and you might consider conditioning your power if the power is a problem.
Right.
Okay, Robert?
That's great.
A couple of ideas. Far too many, probably.
No. I think you've given me a handful there.
Yeah, something to think about. Hey, I'm really glad you watched the show and you've been with us for so long. Thank you so much.
Well, I've always enjoyed it, and hello to everyone there.
I will pass along your greetings. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks for your show.
Alrighty, take care.
Bye.
I'll tell you what, I'll pass them along right now because Sean Carruthers is here. My fabulous wingman. Are you my wingman?
Sure.
He's also our gadget guy, and he's got a shiny for us today.
Yes.
What is this?
You remember a few weeks ago we were talking about media streaming devices.
Yes.
This is one I wanted to talk about, but we ran out of time, so I wanted to make sure that we got to
Good.
this.
Oh, good.
So this is a D-Link's Media Lounge series. D-Link has been one of the companies that's been getting really good at this.
What does it do?
It streams multimedia, including
From it or from a computer?
from a computer to your television set.
So this gets hooked up to the TV?
It gets hooked up to your TV.
Why
It's
is it
in
so big?
Well, it's, I think, largely designed to fit in with the rest of your components.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
you get a bunch of them that look like they have
They look
a very
like
odd form
routers
factor.
often, yeah.
They look like routers. They don't fit in with anything else that's there.
So this is to sit under your stereo or
so
whatever.
This fits
Yeah.
directly under a DVD player, your
Right.
amplifier, or whatever.
Right.
So it does fit in. It's got wireless on the back, so you can pull in wirelessly across your network, and it does have Ethernet, so you can stream if you have a hardwired connection.
So you
as
would
well.
get this on the network, either wired or wireless, and then connect it to your television and your stereo, and that way you could take content that's on your computers
Right.
and watch them on your TV.
Right, and this has been a very hard thing to do properly.
Yeah.
So video especially. So it's always been very easy to get music across and photographs, but the video part has been the really hard part.
And you like
they've
this
been
one?
getting very good at this.
Yeah, this works pretty well
Right.
for you.
Yeah,
Is that what we're watching now? Or is
Yeah,
this...
this is the screen on the back. So we'll just flip through the menu, go back to the video section, for example, if we can get around there. So it's
got actually a pretty nice user interface.
It's got
So
a very
this
good
is
one.
how you would navigate through the videos on your computer. You don't actually, once again, the lab rats, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's the only one I have clearance for.
We don't actually have to go to the computer to do this, which is nice. It has its own interface.
No,
And there's
my-
software running on the computer?
Yeah, my computer's way over on the other side of the
That's
set
what
now.
we're watching.
It's streaming wirelessly.
Oh, that's neat. And Mac or Windows or both?
It will work with certain Mac things. The client that comes with it is Windows only.
Okay.
That's for the server software that you'll put on your computer. But there are other streaming server software packages that you can get for Mac that will work as well, that are third party.
So right now we're watching off Windows. It actually looks very well. Here's your
Pretty
shinies,
good.
your
Yeah.
positives.
So good thing it does stream audio and video very well these days. It does have an HDMI connection, so you've got that good quality connection for both video and audio. And it does stream from a USB key. It has a USB slot on the front. It does require a computer with a shared folder, so there's some networking magic that's required there. And some formats still won't play, so you have to make sure that it is a format that is supported. So if you've got a protected Apple format, probably won't play on this.
Right, but there are converters that can convert.
They're converters.
This has always been the problem, is there's no easy kind of point and click way to do it. This sounds like pretty good, and $250 is not very expensive. Yeah,
it's pretty
Looks good. I'm liking it. That is the D-Link Media Lounge.
Yep, the DSM 520.
520. Okay. Thank you, Sean Carruthers. Coming up in just a bit, more of your calls. A little later on, we're going to show you how to build your own website. Right now, though, our quick quiz question of the day. Here it is. When was the first manned space flight? November 29th, 1956, a day that will live in infamy. April 12th, 1961, March 1969, or February 21st, 2008. Wait a minute. When was the first manned space flight? We're not talking dogs here, right? Man. Okay, think about it. We'll talk about it when the lab continues.
Hey, welcome back to the Lab with Leo. I'm Kate Abraham, and now it's time for my tip of the day. And now this tip is for all you people out there who love fossils and dinosaurs. You can associate with Ross Geller, and Jurassic Park was the movie of the year for you. Paleontology Portal. Very cool site. The good thing about it is one of those sites that you could have to be professional or an amateur. Anybody can enjoy it. Extremely interactive. The cool thing is, once you go through, then you can start to look at the different fossils that you're interested in. So, for instance, if I like plants, I can click through and then go from here, and it gives me an explanation of what the plants are, where they've been found, and whatever the era they came from. You can find it all out, and it's at paleontolportal.org.
Search for Leo Laporte on there. I wonder if they have anything.
You're not a fossil.
Actually, my dad is a paleontologist,
Really?
believe it or not. Yeah. That's a beautiful site. That's really
so
nice.
Cool. It's one of those ones as well, like it's open to anybody, you know?
Yeah, and I love
so
fossils.
Cool.
Aren't they cool?
Very cool.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Let's get another caller on
Okay,
here.
we're going to Victoria, British Columbia, and we have Matt.
All right, thanks. Hey, Matt.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. You?
I'm wonderful. What can I do for you today?
Well, I was looking for a good editing program to edit my videos that I've made with my video camera for.
Oh, you kids today, you think it's so easy making video. You're going out, you're making movies, you're uploading them, you're getting millions of views on YouTube. Well, I wish I were you. Yeah. So, congratulations. So, what are you using right now? I mean, how are you doing it?
Well, right now, I'm just, using the basics with, like, Windows Movie Maker and such.
So you want to take a step up from Movie Maker?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the advantage of Movie Maker is it comes with Windows, so you already have it.
Yeah.
But if you want to do more, you want to do more editing control, more transitions, titling, burn to DVD, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, this is, I always recommend this program. I'm getting to be a broken record on it, but it really is the best program. It's called Adobe Premiere Elements. Version 4 just came out, Vista compatible. And it is just a dynamite program. You'll feel very comfortable because, and this is true of most editing programs, it has the same kind of interface as Windows Movie Maker, that timeline-based interface. So you'll import your video into your computer. We'll start a new project here, but you could, if you don't have the video on the computer yet, you could capture video. That's one of the buttons right here. But we'll just start a new project, and we're going to call it Untitled, which is a very innovative name. I like to use that name. Now, you'll see, hold on a second, it's churning a little bit. There we go. You'll see something that looks very much like Windows Movie Maker. Down here we have the timeline. You'll have your clip here. You'll have a whole bunch of content here as you've imported it, so you can drag stuff to the timeline. You can put titles in. You can mix audio. You can add narration. I mean, this is a fairly sophisticated program. It's based on Adobe's big brother, Premiere, which is a pro program that costs almost $1,000 and is a very, very powerful program. This is 90% of it. Here's all the transitions, the video effects you can use. These are the transitions, the titling. I mean, this is a really nice program. But what the advantage it has is it's not too hard to figure out. I think sometimes you get to programs on the Mac, you go to Final Cut, and it's like, wow, where do I start? This program is pretty straightforward, and yet I think you can get a very professional product. Now, I know you're on a budget because you're a student, right?
Yep.
This is under $100.
Okay.
Be a good thing to ask for as a gift, but you could also probably save up your pennies and get it for yourself. And I think this is a great program. Sony makes a couple of very good programs, too. They bought the Vegas video line, and their Movie Blast Studio and some of their other programs are quite good. But I have to say, I think Adobe's got this market sewn up. They've been doing this for so long. They make the kind of the top of the line pro Windows product, Premiere. I think this is an excellent choice. It's Adobe Premiere Elements. Elements is the inexpensive version. And what they've done is the same thing with Photoshop Elements. They just took out a few of the pro features to give you, a basic tool that does a lot of what you want to work with.
Okay.
What kind of movies are you making?
Well, right now I've made a couple of stupid ones.
They're all stupid.
Yeah.
Have you been to YouTube lately? Doesn't matter. Upload them, put them on YouTube, share them with the world, because this is how you get started in this stuff. And I think it's very exciting because anybody now with a personal computer and inexpensive software and inexpensive home camcorder can make really good pro stuff. And this is how you learn, is by doing it. So get out there and make some movies, okay, Matt?
All right.
Hey, thanks for the call.
All right.
It's great to talk to you. Take care. More of your calls coming up in just a bit. And I'm going to show you, I have pictures of Merlin's baby 50mm lens. I really want to show you. We'll get to those before the end of the show, maybe at the end of the show. So you stay right here. Dave Shea also coming up. How to build a website using CSS. Don't go away. First, let's take a look at the guys who do all the hard work in here. They started with Windows Movie Maker, believe it or not.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the lab. Leo Laporte here. Let's get another call on the air. Kate, I know you got somebody for me.
I have indeed. I have Stuart on the line, and he's from a place called Vernon, which is the same name as my granddad in BC.
Vernon was named after your granddad,
Exactly.
actually. Many people don't know that. Hey, Stuart, how are you today?
I am just great. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for calling. What can I do for you?
Well, I was listening to one of your podcasts, and I couldn't, I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find it. Your show notes leave something to be desired.
That's because it's all me, and I don't have time to do show notes. You want show notes? What is it that you're looking for? Maybe I can help you.
I heard you mention something that kind of made the start button behave like Vista.
Oh, this is probably something Paul Thurrott was talking about on Windows Weekly, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. But
I don't remember off the top of my head. Usually my show notes are pretty good on Windows Weekly because Paul gives me all that information ahead of time. But there are a lot of ways to do this. In fact, I think there are a lot of people who don't want to go to Vista, who want to stick with XP. In fact, more and more that seems to be the case. And if you think about it, I guess it makes sense. XP is mature. It's been patched now so that it's completely secure. It works. It's faster than Vista with fewer resources. The only thing really differing, the only thing that you might want is the look of Vista. You know, now you're never going to get Aero Glass, but if you want to do things like make your start button look like Vista, there's lots of ways to do this. There are a couple of places I would go, I would start. First, Win Customize. I think this is probably what we were talking about. These are the folks at Stardock who have been for years making custom skins for Windows. And they have everything from making Vista look more like XP to making XP look more like Vista. Most of this stuff is not free, it's shareware, but you can try it first. These are skins, essentially. And Vista, I mean, XP is pretty skinnable. And for a long time, I didn't recommend these because they slowed your system down and so forth, but they've gotten very good at doing this without actually hurting your system. You actually might find in here a start button you like better than the Vista start button. They have all kinds of start buttons and sliders and window schemes and so forth. There is a Vista skin for XP. I'll show you a little bit here. It gives you a lot of the features of Vista in the look. This comes from DeviantArt, which is a great site for user art. This is DeviantArt has a visual styles section that does all of this stuff. Here's one called XP to Vista that is a simple download, and it gives you arrow cursors, Vista fonts, a Windows sidebar with Yahoo widgets. They actually do arrow. They do glass. They do a glass 2K start menu. They've got it all in here, and this is absolutely free. So this one's at DeviantArt, DeviantArt.com. If you go there and you do a search for Vista Visual Style, you'll see a number of these. Win Customize is another place to go. This is a commercial site, as I said, and they have a lot of themes, including a number of Vista themes for XP. There may be issues getting it exact. You know how it glows when you hover the mouse over and stuff? There may be some issues with getting it exactly.
That's not really the function part that I was looking for. It's more like how you, in Vista, you just start typing a few letters and it pops up.
Oh, you're looking for that.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you wanted the cosmetics.
No, I wanted the functionality. Yeah,
I remember Paul talking about that. We talked about a couple of things. First, Launchy, which was actually a Ryan Ewell pick some time ago. It's a free Windows utility that lets you just start typing and and hit return. This doesn't use a start bar, but it's very, very fast, and in fact it's better because you don't have to click the start menu. I think Launchy is spectacular, and that's absolutely free. I would try that first. So it's as you see here, and this might have been what we were talking about. This was one of my picks on Windows Weekly. It indexes the programs in your start menu, and you just launch your documents, program files, folders, and bookmarks by just typing a couple of keystrokes. It's really spectacular. It's free open source software, Launchy. And you can see right here, Ryan Ewell discovered this one for us, and I was very impressed by this. Give that a try. I think that's what you're looking for. I'll go back through the notes and see if there's another program. I think there might be. I think Paul recommended another program as well. I'll get that for you. So stay tuned, okay? Thank you, Stuart. I appreciate the call. Now let's wander over. Speaking of free files, to the lovely and talented Ryan Ewell. It was an excellent choice in shirts.
That's what I was supposed to say. You got a sharp dresser.
Yes.
I think I was wearing mine first, though. I think
I did. I saw yours and I said, "That's what I want to wear today."
Cool.
So, what is your program today?
It's a website, Kuler, KULER.adobe.com.
Okay.
And it's a play on color. And it's a color wheel application. It's really cool. So for people that have ever, had any kind of idea about wanting to have colors match up, it's basically a place where people design these color wheels, which is 5 colors that somehow complement each other.
Complementary.
And you can choose. And so they have like highest rated ones, and they have people that have actually designed these colors to match. But the part that I like is you can actually make your own color wheel here, and I can actually like play around with different things, and I can change the way they interact with each other.
See, for somebody like me takes whatever color I think of for my website. I probably should go here and make everything.
You know what emotions you're trying to convey, what feeling.
Because I'm a guy. I don't know. We're wearing red shirts, right? My wife would say, "Oh no, that's a brick rust," and this one is magenta taupe, or I don't know what.
And so people,
we need to know this stuff.
and professional people share their color wheels. So you can. That's why you can check the most popular ones, the highest rated ones, the newest ones. So it's cooler.adobe.com. Cooler.
Kuler.
Yes.
Thank you, Ryan. Jules are available somewhere, I know, on the web.
LabWithLeo.com. Hopefully we got a color wheel going on there. Hopefully it's all, Tavis has done his job.
Of course he has. He's a professional.
Yes.
He knows that I'm not wearing red and you're not wearing red. They're completely different colors.
There you go.
Looks the same. Thank you, Ryan.
You're welcome.
LabWithLeo.com for all of Yule's jewels. All right, we're going to come back in just a bit. We're actually going to talk about designing your own website. Maybe you could use a complimentary color wheel while you're doing it. Before we do that, though, one more chance to take our quick quiz question of the day. When was the first manned space flight flown? Was it November 29th, 1956, April 12th, 1961, 1969, or 2008? Think about it. Go to the website. We'll tell you when the Lab with Leo continues. Welcome back to the lab. Before the break, we asked you when the first manned space flight was. It was Yuri Gagarin, and it was 1961. And it was Vlit Moskva. Yuri Alexeyevich Gagarin, Sputnik. No, it was Vostok 1. I can't remember the name. Anyway, I hope you got that right. That first date, that wasn't it. That was my birthday. All right, we got Dave Shea here. He's a web designer. He's with the he's an independent Vancouver-based web designer. Wrote the incredible CSS Garden site, the Zen Garden, in 2003. There's a book he did with Molly Holschlag called The Zen of CSS Design. And you organized something called Web Directions North, which is a conference for web designers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, by the time this airs, it'll probably already have run its course.
Oh, dang, we missed it again. So CSS, we talk a lot about cascading style sheets, but what we've never seen, and I'm really glad you're going to do this, is how a designer works, how a designer starts with an idea and gets it into CSS.
Right, yeah, there's a couple of different ways of doing that, and this is actually a fairly common question that comes up when I'm talking to people who just kind of write me out of the blue and they say, how do you get started doing this?
Right.
There's two main ways I'm going to talk about here. One is going from Photoshop or Illustrator or Fireworks, whatever your image editor choice is.
Yeah.
Essentially a graphics editor, and actually meticulously creating the website, first of all, in the graphics program, and then exporting it out and building the CSS-based site using that.
That seems like a lot of work. Is that how the people who submit to Zen Garden work mostly?
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
You know, I can't speak for everybody, obviously, but this is, to me anyway, this is the way that I think gives you the most control over what the site ends up looking like. You can work through some of the big picture design ideas ahead of time, as opposed to looking at something in the browser and going, okay, well, I'm going to add stuff on top of this.
But you could do stuff in Photoshop that you can't do in CSS, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So you have to be aware of what the limitations.
The real trick is taking it from within Photoshop and getting it onto the web.
Well, show us the process here.
All right, so on my screen here, I've got Photoshop open. I've got a mock-up up on here, and this is just kind of a typical example of something that you might be looking at in Photoshop. So I've got some guides on that I can turn off here. As you can see, you know, typical in a graphics editor, I've got it built up in multiple layers that I can turn on or off at any given time. And the trick is really taking this and saving it out. So there's a lot of little imagery things that I have to do in order to bring it outside. And I'm just going to show you one. There's a whole bunch more, but if I take a look at, say, the background here, you see we've got this repeating pattern. Now, if I were to save this out as a single image, that's going to be
too big.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be a huge JPEG file. So what I have to do is look at that and go, let's try to make use of that repeating background pattern, and let's save out a much smaller segment. So I've got this little. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it a little better. This little square kind of cut out from the background pattern. And by saving this out as a GIF file, I actually, in the browser, I can load it up. And here you see a site that's totally unstyled.
No CSS, yeah.
No CSS at all. But by applying it to the background,
and CSS has a command to let you repeat it horizontally or vertically, so that it will end up looking like the original at a much smaller size.
Yeah, so you know that one little image can fill my entire background.
That's why you tend to see repeating images as backgrounds instead of a large image.
That's right, yeah. It saves a lot of space. Now you can do it both ways, but So in this case here, you know, we started out, when the browser first loaded up, I've got the unstyled site here, and you can see that it looks pretty much like garbage. It's not a very interesting design.
Well, what it has, though, is the images that you took from your Photoshop.
That's right.
And it has the content, the text that you want. So now it's a question of mashing it all up in the way that you want it to look right?
Right. So the first step after building it in Photoshop is to actually sit down in a text editor and build the HTML. So I want to apply the CSS over top of the HTML.
So that's what we're looking at now.
That's
just
right.
Bland,
no CSS
unstyled HTML.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so step by step, what I do is I say, taking my idea of what that site should look like, I want to start making changes to that file to bring it closer in line with what the design should end up looking like. So in the second step here, I've got it kind of centered, which was in my design, and I've applied the first background image. In the third step, I've gone a little bit further.
Okay, we're not seeing that. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So that was the second step.
So that's centered, but still not the way we want it to be.
Right.
Obviously.
So the next step...
is this adding styles as you're doing this?
More or less, yeah. I mean, the big concept that is kind of a problem for building CSS-based sites is you don't have this idea of layering, where in Photoshop I've got multiple layers that I build up over top of each other. I have essentially just a flat file on the page, a flat design, and I have to, using all these image-based tricks, I have to bring it out of Photoshop and apply it to the design.
Easier said than done, let me tell you.
Yeah, so I mean that is...
Or maybe easier done than said, I don't know.
That's one way of doing it, but a lot of designers I know are actually fans of another way, which is starting in the browser, using that HTML we saw, and building out the CSS on top of that HTML.
That requires a sure hand and a clever mind.
Yeah, you're basically coming up with a design as you go.
Right.
So if you go back to
that's kind of how I will work, but that's not, I'm not a real designer, but I'll start with a kind of an architecture, a wireframe, and then slowly style the stuff around it.
Exactly.
Because I don't have the vision.
So I've got another demo here where it actually shows step by step some of the things you do to bring that design or bring that HTML.
So you'll slowly style each headline and
exactly.
Move it
I might
over.
say I want 2 columns. I want to center it in the middle
Already
of the
it
page.
looks better,
next step.
Yeah.
I think that's for Dana. The next step would be adding some style to the navigation on the left-hand side, going from that to that, and doing something to the headers, and then finally I might do something more graphically interesting with the header.
You want to see how this can happen? The best place to go is the great Zen Garden. It's the CSSZengarden.com.
CSSZengarden.com. Yeah.
What a beautiful place to see same content. All different styles, some beautiful stuff. And mezzoblue.com is Dave Shea's site, so you can find out more there. In fact, he's got those icons. Are those the stock icons? I can't wait to see those.
Yeah, they're up there for sale right now.
That's really cool. Mezzoblue.com. Thank you, Dave. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Final words coming up right after this. It's interesting because there's 2 different ways to work in CSS, just like anything else with the computers, or in life, I guess. You can think, plan, carefully figure it out, then slowly work it through, or you can do what I do, which is just beat on it until beat it into submission.
Eventually it works.
That's why that's called hacking. I'm just hacking on it. Anyway, if you'd like to join us, we've got a carefully planned website, a carefully planned web show. You can join us. Go to labwithleo.com, and if you want to be on the TV show.
/tech questions. Submit your question there. We'll get you on the show.
Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next time on The Lab. Bye-bye.